Yeah.
All right, back to business.
Clearly, we need to drink. It's all good.
I like how I'm sitting cross-legged because I'm so tiny.
I know, that's how that
So,
works
what do you got for us today there, Missy?
I'm going to talk about family cosplay.
Yeah, because you did your panel at Edmonton Expo, which was at the end of almost the end of September, and
Yeah.
I think Colin's got a little bit of con plague coming, and I've got a little bit of con plague
And I'm fine.
going, and I don't know what the hell she's on. So
I'm superhuman.
Yeah, you never get sick.
Yeah.
You got spawned.
But when she does,
spawns,
When I get sick, I'm destroyed. But yes, so we did a panel on family cosplay. It went really well. Unfortunately, I think the timing of our panel was kind of crappy due to the fact it was Friday evening, right at the end of the con, and a lot of parents already have taken their kids home, things like that. So it was kind of a...
And you guys were against the the major celebrity that was
absolutely one of their big huge panels was going on too. So anyways, we had talked about a lot of things in that panel in regards to comfort, wigs, makeup, all of these things.
And if you want to see the panel, we actually recorded it, so it is on our YouTube page if you want to watch the whole entire panel.
Yes. So we had our monsters running around with us, interacting, being chaotic, which is what children do.
It's so much fun, though.
So we figured we'd take the opportunity to kind of talk a little bit more about things that we couldn't necessarily talk about in the panel.
Because it was a little PG-13.
Yes, we had to make sure
Of
that
course,
it was...
because expos are always family-friendly events.
Yes.
Always.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
So we did talk about comfort, which was a huge deal with children in cosplay. Costumes are a huge deal, sensory issues, all those types of things. But what I really want to talk about with this, and you had brought this up as being something huge too, is taking a sexualized character and making it child appropriate. So we run along the lines of comfort on that. So again, bodysuits, leggings, things like that are acceptable. However, please do not wear low-cut shirts. I know I touched base on the Harley thing in the panel, but that really irritates the snot out of me, especially the Suicide Squad Harley. Making your kid dress up as a Suicide Squad Harley with fishnet stockings, little booty shorts. I'm not okay with that personally, because that to me is not acceptable. But, I mean, comfort is key. So as long as you're doing something that's not, you know, it's age appropriate and comfy, your kids will be happy.
Well, I think, too, like, one of the things, like you had mentioned, was that your little does Power Girl, and so do you.
Yes.
And the biggest difference is, like, her
The
Power
boob
Girl
windows.
is a full cover suit that comes all the way up to here, whereas yours has the cutout that shows the cleavage.
This is like legit what she wears. So it's like a high-necked bodysuit. There is no cleavage. There's no nothing.
But it's still identifiable as Power Girl because of the cape and the...
she wears rubber boots. So instead of thigh-high boots that are heels, we made it more child appropriate by going to the rubber boot aspect of it because it makes it cute. So she ran around in this little outfit, which was completely, like, it wasn't see-through at all. It was so thick. It was a dancer's, like, unitard. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, it's dancer's unitard.
Yeah, so it was, like, super thick. And yeah, so I mean, that to me was child appropriate and age appropriate. Like I said, the Harleys kind of...
But here's the question. Okay, so I am not a breeder. And that pretty much sums up my attitude towards
the things that are
the things that run around, little snot machines and whatnot. Although your snot machines are adorable and delightful.
Oh yeah, and remember my snot machine gave you like pink eye last year.
Yeah,
so,
her snot machine gave me pink eye. Great.
The worst eye infection ever.
The worst eye infection I had ever had in my entire natural life. My husband wouldn't touch me with a 6-foot pole. He made me sleep on the sofa. I needed 3 different types of antibiotics. It was not pretty. Anyhow, let me go back to that sort of thing. Is what do you think about dressing your characters? I mean, you've talked about now putting your designing the costume so it isn't sexualized, but the character already has a sexualized history. Okay. So I'm gonna be pretty vulgar right now, and we've all seen the old guys in the corner watching the kids, taking the pictures from the side, not asking permission, that sort of thing. So where do you draw the line? I mean, I don't have a kid, but I worry about the kids that I see dressed up as, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, because that is strictly a fetish costume.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely a
Yeah,
fetish
and both
costume.
bars do a version of
They
Catwoman.
do.
That version as well, yeah.
Exactly. So it's definitely. So what do you say to people who, like me, don't have kids, but are clearly concerned about the kids that are wearing these things? And what do you explain to them about the characters?
That's actually a really good point. So as I touched base in the panel prior, Farrah is very like character orientated. So if she wants to be a character, we research, we do all these things, so her posing and blah blah blah, she has it down pat. When it comes to things like sexualizing them, I try and do my best to explain. Unfortunately, that's the society we're in. Second, the older comics that were written, they're not as bad, but they're very, what's the word? It's mainly men. Like, it's like we focus on the men and the women are just like a bystander. So, I mean...
It's stroke material, let's face it. It really is.
Yeah, it literally is. So, I mean, as long as you explain where that comes from and, like, that type of thing, and you don't make a big, huge deal out of it, but you don't ignore it. Because that's the thing, too, is that nowadays people just try and throw it under the rug and not say anything. Like, oh my god, don't say that anybody ever masturbated to Carrie Fisher on their wall. Like, you know what I mean?
According to Carrie, it was several times a day.
Right? But, I mean, that was the thing, is you don't talk about that stuff. And I'm more open and honest with my kid about it. So if she asks questions like, why is she posed like that? And I'll be like, well, this is kind of where it comes from. But when it comes to walking around cons and having people take pictures of your kid, I'm a protective, like, mama bear. So if I see people trying to take pictures of my kid and I step in front of them. Like, there is no, don't go past go, like, ask, be respectful. You know, permission is key, especially with young kids. And my daughter will pose like nobody's business. Like, if anybody's seen any of her pictures, she's a poser. So for her, it's like ask first and it's fine. But if I find it sketchy or uncomfortable, 100% step in, say my business, tell them to turn away. This is unacceptable because I'm their mom. I'm supposed to protect them. Absolutely. So you have to really watch and make aware. And that's the other thing is like... Well,
I think, too, one of the things, because both of our littles like to work with photographers, and they have particular photographers they like over others.
Comfortable.
And there's, you know, if ever there's a time where my kid is not comfortable with a photographer, we don't book them again.
No.
We don't use them again. If they contact us and say, you know, hey, would you guys be willing to shoot? And we'll just say, you know what, no, not this time, not this con. Because there has been a couple photographers that Ollie was just like did not click with for whatever reason. I have a girlfriend whose daughter is a pretty famous model, and she said the same thing when she was little. Yeah. They never booked Mercedes if she did not like the photographer.
Yeah, Farrah generally meets everybody prior to a photo shoot. So I do like a meet and greet. Because if my kid doesn't like you when we meet you, she's not going to work in front of a camera. So, and I find that also for me too, because it's like, how are you acting with the kids? How are you interacting with the kids? Are you, like, when you ask them to pose differently, are you physically turning them to pose or just asking them? Because that's a whole nother story too. And working, like, Farrah is a model. So, I mean, working in the industry, she has people who do be like, okay, can you turn your chin? And they'll touch her chin, but they never touch anything else.
Well, and I think that's important too, like with the 501st and with like the Ghostbusters booth, we are totally taught to never touch people. Yeah. And we are also taught that when you take pictures, even like with Harry Potter events that we do and all those things, your hands always have to be visible. So I think that's important to acknowledge too, because as volunteers who go out and do charity work with children, we need to make sure that we are in no way being inappropriate. And the same goes for photographers.
Absolutely.
And for people at the con. So if they are, like, taking pictures of my kid without permission and I see them, oh, yeah, I've been known to say stuff. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Because there is sometimes where, like, and there was one time where I actually had to, like, place myself in between a photographer and
I've done
and
that
say,
too.
like, okay, we're done here.
Yeah,
like,
no,
that's
we're
enough.
good.
That's enough. Yeah.
So, but I mean, then there's, like, other parents who will throw their kids. So how do you deal with responsible or irresponsible parents? That's what it comes down to. Mama Rosas. And this shows how old I am, that I just quoted like from like Gypsy the musical. Like, I don't know what that is, go look it up. So shut up.
And I think we were pretty fortunate in the fact that we have like a really awesome community here. That we deal with that has a lot of, like, we're like, oh yeah, we got your kids, we'll watch your kid and we'll take them out to the con. There's a few of us that do that for sure. So like it takes a village, right? So there's a village of us watching kids at the con too, which is important.
Yeah, I think this is me being me. Oh my god, this is terrible. So my kid loves taking pictures of people, and that's fine. But when I've had kids come up and, like, pull on them and, like, muck with her costume, and Farrah's very like me, where she just looks at you like, are you seriously touching me right now? And I've had to be like, stop touching my kid. Back off, like, remove their hands from their costumes. And I look at the parents and be like, why is this acceptable? And all of us are talking about, like, cosplay is not consent, all these other things, but yet you're allowing your child to walk over to another child and physically touch their stuff. It drives me mental, but I always say something, because I look at it and go, if I'm not going to say something to you, I have no rights to complain.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes it's just like, oh, well, they didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Well, there is. Like, even though they're little and they're cute and they're tiny and they look like you can pick them up and put them in your pocket, don't freaking touch my kid without my kid's approval or mine.
Absolutely.
End of it.
Yep.
Cut and dry.
Yippers.
Yeah, it's kind of a mean thing, but at the same time, like, you want them to learn young. This is why you get all those people who have, you know, they don't think about it, and, oh, well, they didn't say anything, so it's fine. No, say something. And I teach Farrah the same thing. Like, you don't like it, say it. And she has a couple friends at school that do the same thing, and it drives me nuts. Yeah, so it's, some people really need to get your kids in check.
That's what it comes down to. But cosplaying with parents who are, like, new to it, like, what would be the one big thing that you would be like? Other than leashes. Leashes and ball gags is what I would suggest, but that's
a whole nother...
just me. Leashes, ball gags, and birth control. That's just me.
That's where we start. I think the biggest thing is to, like, I reached out, actually, that's how I met Colin, was Farrah had been doing cosplay, but we hadn't done, like, a page or expanded in that sense of it, and so I actually reached out because somebody was like, have you heard of Olipop Cosplay? And I was like, no. They linked me to her, I talked to her, we started having these conversations about, like, you know, the cons and costuming and appropriate, like, all of these things, and that to me really brought it to my attention that not only is it okay to have your kid at a con, but this is proper etiquette. Like, this is where you should be, this is what you should look for, like, that type of thing. So I think reaching out to other people who do cosplay and have little people, contact them and ask them.
And I think, too, the important thing with, if you are going to do social media for your child, one of the things is I never started her page till I had her permission, which sounds really weird, but even at a young age, children know what permission is, and they know if, like, and she chooses every picture we put up. If she says, yeah, I want that one on my page, then we put it up. The other thing is I monitor that page like a hawk.
Yeah.
So if anybody makes any kind of inappropriate comment of any sort that I am not comfortable with, it is deleted immediately, and the person is banned and blocked from the page. Now, that sounds really harsh, but you wouldn't believe how much I end up banning and blocking from her pages. Is actually kind of disheartening. They know there's sometimes where it's people just being creepy, but they don't know they're creepy, but then there's other times where it's legit. No, you're out of line. This is a child who is 6 years old, and you cannot say things like that on social media. Like, excuse me, you're going to get yourself arrested, so you're being deleted and blocked from my page.
And that's a good point, because, I mean, we as parents, I mean, we're appropriate.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when it comes to that type of thing, Farrah does do a ton of things. So, I mean, for her, it's the same type of thing, is that if I find somebody's, like, being kind of, like, creepy in the sense of wording or, like, liking every post after they've been on the page for a long period of time and, like, going back and instead of liking them, because, like, when we started, the Facebook didn't have, like, the reactions bar. It was just a like, and then you moved on. But if I found that people were going back now that they have the reaction bar and reacting differently to every picture again, I'm like, that's you need to calm yourself, and we need to figure this out, because that's not okay either. Like, I find that a boundary that's not okay to cross. Right, absolutely. So, yeah, it's one of those things.
And not every kid is going to want a cosplay page.
No, it's true.
So, I mean, like, in the case of Olivia, she from very young was very sure that she loved to cosplay. I remember being at Eek and her dressed as an Ewok, and we had early access, so we'd gone in about half an hour before the show floor opened, and we were about halfway through the show floor, and she was so upset, and I'm like, Olivia, what's wrong? And she says, Mom, no one's saying I'm cute. And I was like, That's because no one's in here yet. And she's like, yeah, but Mom, there are people here and no one's taking my picture. So not every kid is going to be like that. Yeah. We have friends of hers that we do cons with that dress up from Final Fantasy as like the Chaka Bros. Yeah. And they just wear like t-shirts and ball caps, and they are not like social attention seekers like my little one is.
Which is fine.
Absolutely, yeah. But they still have a riot together. They're running around the con. They're having a good time. Their parents don't have to worry about doing a social media page for them because they're not going to want. But my kid wants that. She likes to see what people write. She wants me to read every comment, which is why I am so diligent about deleting those inappropriate ones, because she does read them, and if they aren't appropriate, could one hurt her, or two be a serious issue.
Absolutely.
I'm like, okay, now's the time for the educational portion of the show.
Hosted by me, of all the people.
Well, you know. Well, $5.99 a minute voice note down there can't talk, so it's really big.
But it'll cost you
I'm not going to have dolphin porn for us, not this week. Dolphin porn will be on the next show.
You should. It was great. It was my favorite video of yours. So, okay, so we had also talked about having props that are lightweight and things like that for kids. Edmonton Expo was a huge deal for our girls. It was the very first full armor. Well, for mine anyways. Ollie did have Lava Girl. But this was like an intense group. We had My Little Pony Gladiator, which you can see Ollie's helmet here. But this is like ridiculously lightweight. Do you have it pinned on? I'm like, oh, I
haven't pinned on yet. So it doesn't fall off. Sorry.
See? She makes it hard for me to do anything. So it's very lightweight. Like it barely weighs anything. Right?
Yeah, it's super, super light. Like this is...
you can, and it's just made out of EVA foam.
5mm EVA foam.
But so it's just made out of foam. It's nice and lightweight. It's not like, it doesn't squish their head. In fact, I think Ollie's is a bit big on her.
Yeah, I think so. I think I would add some stuff in it next time.
But it's formed to their head size, so that way it's not hurting their heads. They wore them quite
they wore them all day. I was actually quite impressed. They wore the helmets and wigs. They would take off the wigs, which is not uncommon, but the armor they wore all day with no complaints, which was super surprising.
Where did you get the patterns from for the helmets? Are these Evil
Teds?
These are Evil Ted's patterns. However,
there's a caveat here for Evil
Ted. I had to modify them just a bit to fit the little people. Okay. Right? So I used the Dragon Age pattern.
But then we discovered after
that he had a kid's helmet pattern. So, I mean, I like making myself extra work for some random reason. But so he does have all the patterns on there. It's the only thing that's really different on these ones is sizing, obviously, for the little people. And then the side pieces here. On his, they have, big dragon, wing pieces and stuff. But I used his tutorial on how to put it together as well. And this is, the second helmet I've ever made. So much easier since I found his channel.
Once you follow his instructions.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Because again, when I did her first one, which was her Loki helmet, it was fun, and I have no patience. She says
sarcastically.
Right. I have no patience. So for me, and contact cement was it was terrible. But then I watched his videos and I understood a little bit more on how to work with contact cement and how to clean it if I've over cemented or whatever, so that I'm not having stickiness everywhere. So it's really good. So if you've never watched Evil Ted, you need to watch his channel. He has some free patterns, which is really cool too, and he walks you through step by step on how to assemble.
He also does this really cool thing on his birthday where you can get all of his patterns for free.
Really?
It's his birthday present to the world.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing is pink foam. A lot of people asked us what this is, and it's the insulation foam that you get at Home Depot. It's the Pink Panther stuff.
No other way.
Right? We'll just start going Pink Panther. But yes, so we use this for a lot of the kids' props because it is very lightweight. There's nothing to it at all. You can use a hot wire knife to cut it, sculpt it, sand it down, things like that. You don't have to cover this with a thermoplastic. It is quite durable. If your kid's a little bit rough and tumble, like Ollie, they may break it, but Farah has done really well. Her Maui Hook is 100% pink foam. There's nothing else on it. It's just flex bonded, painted, and we're good.
Yeah, Ollie broke her sword at the expo.
Yeah.
I had to go back and repair it.
Yeah, so I find that it's cheap. It's cheap. Two, you can carve really anything into it. You can use a soldering iron on it. Make sure you're wearing the proper masks and stuff. I don't always do so.
Do as she says, not as she does.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm terrible for that. I think I've made like tutorials before, and I'm like blah 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 blah, and I'm like I'm not wearing the mask, but you guys should, and it's like right beside me. Like,
this is the mask you should be wearing.
yeah. So make sure you're like in a nice ventilated area. Sanding it too. It gets everywhere. So make sure you're in an isolated area or outside.
Don't do it in your sewing room.
Don't do that
because it gets all over your sewing projects.
Yeah, and it's hard to get. It's hard to get off, Jen.
Yeah, it is. It's like girl crumb. I mean, what? I mean, what? Did I say that?
Like glitter. Like glitter.
Like glitter.
Glitter's not hard. You guys just don't know how to get it off.
We'll edit
well,
that
you
out.
have to use fabric softener sheets to remove glitter off surfaces.
It's true. But yes, so I think if you've never made a prop before, reach out to us. We will help you. We'll give you tips and tricks and things like that to do. Another thing with props is make sure that you have the ability to either attach them to them properly where it's comfortable, or expect to carry them all day.
Yeah.
Have an extra bag.
It's true.
Yeah.
We become cosplay handlers as well.
Yeah, Farah did pretty good. She had her shield and her sword, and she carried it most of the day, so that was really good. Her helmet, I think I carried a little bit, but not too much. So, again, make sure they like what you're making, because I swear to you, if they hate it, they're not wearing it.
That ends that pretty quickly.
It's true.
100%. So, yeah, so family and cosplay is fun. Just have fun with it, and yeah.
Should we talk about meltdowns?
Oh my god. You can talk about meltdowns.
Oh man. So I have a child who's a little bit overdramatic. And when she gets tired, well actually no, my kid, it's about the food. So she gets hungry. Oh my god, she is like a demon child. She becomes like feral. She doesn't listen.
She's got rabies.
She climbs things. Oh my god, it's terrible. Like it's to the point where I'll say to people like, I really need to go feed her, and they're like, please do. Yeah. She's unbelievable. So she gets over dramatic, and she has meltdowns when she's tired. I think the biggest thing is that we like to try to make sure that we have something for them to do, some kind of activity. It was really great. Prior expos, we would have this children's zone. This year they had a craft area, which we actually never had the opportunity to go to. We tried to go to it one day, but it was on break. We're gonna hopefully they have something like that in the future as well. But we really missed the bouncy castles. That was super good. We could like take them as parents as a group. Like one parent could go, and we could take like 5 kids, and they'd be in the bouncy towers.
And they were free.
And they were free, which was awesome. It made it so family friendly. And I'm having issues. I have a little bit of the con plague. One of the things too we found too is Animathon in Edmonton is really attempting to become more family friendly, which was super awesome. So we're starting to see more kids at Animathon. So this is the first year they ever ran a chibi parade in years, I guess. And so that was great. We had a big turnout, I thought, for that. So that was really awesome. So as, more and more families start participating in these cons, then more and more family activities will come about. So yeah, just making sure that they can have a break, whether it's meals, outside. My kid just really likes to run, so like finding a room for her to run in or a space outside where she can just run and go. That's good. They almost become like con kids where they just like know the con so well that they take off on you. It scares the pants off of me because I'm like a total like helicopter mom, but every time she's managed to make it back to our booth, so that's
yes, good. That's always positive. Yeah, meltdowns. The way that I handle it, Farah has very few meltdowns. She actually, every time Ollie melts down, she looks at her like, seriously, like, what are you doing? Like, she's very judgy. But when she does have a meltdown, it's generally due to exhaustion. Like, she's either just really tired and just wants to go or something like that. But how we handle it is one of two ways. Either, like, are you ready to go? Do you want to go? We'll leave right now. And it's either yes or no. And if she says no, then we find a quiet space to just sit and let her chill for a little bit, and then she's good to go. I've only ever had, like, I think maybe one screaming fit with her at a con. And I literally was like, and we're done. And she's like, what? And I'm like, no, this is not how we act. Like, I get it. If you're upset, that's fine. But we don't act like this. So for me, I'm very cut and dry. So I don't have a lot of patience, as anybody knows. So it's like, if you're going to melt down, we're going to figure it out. And if we can't figure it out, we're leaving. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But because like I've seen so many moms who kids are screaming and crying and they're still trying to do stuff, and I look at them and go, you're making life so much more complicated than it should be. I get it, every kid's different, and handle your kids how you want, but if they're having a meltdown, remove them from a situation. Don't continue the situation. Even this, I've done it at grocery stores, I've done it everywhere. Like, let's remove it from the situation, figure it out, and either go back to the situation or leave. Like,
and you know, at OdaFest a couple of years ago, we had a hotel room that was right close, and that was my favorite thing ever.
Yeah.
Because whenever we would get to an emotional place, we could just go back to the hotel room for like half an hour and just like have a little snooze or like have a little like veg out, and then.
Yeah, that's good. Like, we had the booth this year where the kids were able to just watch their iPads or like have a snack.
I have to say, while we're on the topic of that, thank you to Fan Expo for providing the cosplay repair station. It was a place where cosplayers could go and just have like a few minutes. I only had to kick out one general person, which was kind of nice. I know there was chairs. There was like 6 tables back there.
It
plus
was huge.
It was amazing. Amazing. We couldn't have asked for better.
That is true. And yeah, it was nice because we had all the well, we had like a huge section. It was like a huge corner. And so we had the ability to kind of like tuck ourselves in.
I'm so sorry.
So like the kids had like the plugins for their iPads. We had a spot where they weren't actually interfering with people using the space as a repair booth. So that made it even better too, because again, it avoided meltdowns. It avoided all of these things.
And the stamps, like we did stamping. We were a passport thing. The kids loved it because they got to see everybody for one, which they love because they're social butterflies.
Yeah.
They got to like stamp because kids like to make messes. And and they loved that. Like, if we could have stamping at the booth all the time, it was hectic, but the kids loved it. So when the kids were there, they were stamping.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, just find something that your kid loves to do and stick with it.
It's pretty basic.
Pretty basic, cut and dry. Don't be a dick. Control your children. Act right.
It's like when you go to the restaurants and you hear the screaming kids. Can't stand that. It's like, take your kid out of the restaurant.
My ovaries shrink. I can literally
feel
my ovaries shrink. Like
before I had Olivia, I was the same way. I remember seeing a kid once stick their hand in Jell-O at a restaurant, and I was like, oh my god, I can't.
And now you're like, as long as they're eating it, I don't care.
Right now I'm like, oh, that's my kid.
And then mine's the one looking at her being
like all
what
judgy.
Are you doing?
What are you doing?
I'm standing behind your kid looking at it.
Oh my god, my kid is you.
I know, it's great.
I just realized that. She legit is you.
Yeah. She looks at kids like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, like for a 7-year-old, you'd think that she was like 45. Cause she's like,
I know.
No.
45 and had made that decision that we're not having kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call her Mini Jen.
Mini Jen from now on.
Yeah,
that's all good.
Boy.
Yeah. Good. That's my little Mini Jen.
Right, and she'll be like, why are you touching me?
Why are you touching me? Go away, drunk Jen.
Oh, so good. So good.
So good.